It all starts with his mama, who's on the run with him. They're being pursued by a couple of goons, but somehow she loses M. So what does she do? She decides to leave poor Lu Su at the doorstep of an orphanage, telling him she'll be back after fetching some medicine. But fate has a cruel sense of humor, cause right after that, the city goes kaboom, and it's clear that his mama didn't make it. Fast forward 18 years, and we find Lu Su all grown up, enjoying a lantern festival with a girl named Chao, who grew up alongside him in the orphanage. He treats her like she's his own flesh and blood, you know? But here's the kicker, the kid's dirt poor. He's scraping pennies together just to get by, let alone support himself and Chao. He's even counting the coins to buy her a treat. Man, dedication right there. So, they decide to catch a show where some dude's showing off his fire controlling powers. But lo and behold, the pendant Lu Su got from his mama starts glowing, like it's saying, hey kid, you got some magic in you too. Now, our boy's got dreams, man. He wants to perform, make some dough, and give his little sister a better life. So, he sneaks into the fire guy's dressing room, hoping to learn a thing or two about fire magic. But surprise, surprise, he runs into this dude named Shurfei. Turns out, Shurfei's part of an organization called Snare, and they're all about hunting down folks who use powers without permission. Shurfei decks the fire magician with a tranquilizer dart, and Lu Su bolts, cause who wants trouble, right? Later on, they get back to their humble abode, and Chao catches something on the tube. Turns out, folks all over the place are gaining powers out of thin air. I mean, we're talking an old lady teleporting and whatnot. Crazy, right? So, Lu Su heads out to grab some instant noodles, but in a twist of fate, he starts remembering those bullies from his orphanage days. But Chao, being the caring sis she is, prepares some tea to help heal his wounds. Now, hold on tight cause things are about to take a turn. As Lu Su's crossing the road, bam, he gets run over by none other than Truck-kun. Classic anime move, am I right? But here's where it gets interesting. That pendant of his, shaped like a walnut, it starts activating. Suddenly, a surge of power flows through Lu Su's body. His heart starts beating like it should. Talk about a second chance, man. With newfound vigor, our boy finally grabs those instant noodles and heads back home. But he's got this mischievous streak in him now, you know? Blood's dripping from his forehead, scaring the living daylights out of the noodle vendor. Ah, good times. Finally, he arrives back home, ready to see what the future holds for him and Chao. So, here's the deal. Little Chao, she's a character, I tell ya. She sees Lu Su's bleeding head and couldn't care less. All she cares about is them instant noodles he's got. Girl's got her priorities straight, I guess. Anyway, Lu Su finds himself alone in his room, and out of nowhere, a notification window pops up. Talk about unexpected surprises. Now, Lu Su's analyzing the menu like it's some gourmet dish, and he realizes something interesting. This system of his, it's gonna give him points every time he makes someone angry or uncomfortable. Anger, huh? Well, that's gonna be his ticket to success. With those points, he can spin this roulette wheel and win some sweet goodies. So, our kid here starts using up those hard-earned points, spinning that wheel like there's no tomorrow. After a bunch of tries, what does he win? An apple. Yeah, you heard me right, an apple. But here's where it gets wild. When Lu Su takes a bite into that apple, his arms suddenly get a power boost. I mean, talk about a tasty power-up, am I right? So, what's a kid to do? He starts annoying his sister, pushing her buttons left and right to earn more points. Mischievous little bugger, ain't he? And then, when he checks out the system menu again, he realizes there's a whole shop where he can buy items. This kid's on a roll, man. So, Lu Su goes ahead and buys himself a fruit from that shop. And when he takes a bite, bam, he's transported to some cultivation area that looks like outer space. The fruit itself illuminates one of them moons orbiting a planet. Now, that's some serious stuff. It's like a cosmic puzzle, you see. Our boy's gotta light up all them moons if he wants to rank up and become even stronger. The journey's just getting started, my friend. The next day, Lu Su finds himself at school, and you know what the hot topic is? People gaining magical powers left and right. It's all the talk among his classmates. And then, out of the blue, the kid receives a video. This video reveals that folks with powers are being ranked from F to AAF for the weakest and A for the strongest. It's a whole grading system, man. Now, things take a turn when everyone rushes up to the rooftop to witness Liddy, this guy with super strength, trying to chuck a teacher off the building cause the teacher wants to take a blood test from him. It's pure chaos up there. But guess who steps in? Our man Lu Su, causing a ruckus and distracting Liddy. That gives the Snare fellas the opportunity they need to immobilize the kid so he won't go throwing teachers around like ragdolls. After all that commotion, Lu Su finds himself back in the classroom, only to see two nurses collecting blood from every single student. Yeah, they want to see who's got powers and who's hiding them. Our boy's in for a surprise, alright, and just when you think things couldn't get any crazier, the exam results drop the next day. The principal decides to put all the students with powers in a special class. And who's he appointing as the teacher? None other than Shurfei himself, the very same dude Lu Su encountered in the park, the one who knocked out that magician with a tranquilizer dart. Talk about a twist of fate, man. But hold on tight, cause that ain't all. We shift our focus to a skilled warrior named Nyatinya, locked in a fierce battle against a whole bunch of guys. These fellas are hell-bent on invading some ruin to snag treasures and valuable gear. It's a one-man army situation, and Nyatinya's giving him a run for their money. So, back to school, a student named Janga shows up and takes a seat right next to Lu Su. These two end up becoming buddies, and let me tell ya, their friendship is something else. They're like two peas in a pod. Now, listen close cause things are about to get interesting. Under the cover of night, Lu Su and Janga venture to a top-secret, heavily guarded warehouse to attend a lecture by the scholar Shurfei. This guy's got some knowledge to drop. He starts explaining that scientists have discovered this substance, right? And this substance can measure students' aptitude levels through their blood. When mixed with the blood, it changes color, going from silver to black. And the darker the black, the higher the aptitude level. We're talking ranks here, from F to A. You following me? Now, here's the twist. After the test, Janga lands himself a solid rank B, but our poor Lu Su, well, he gets stuck with the dreaded rank F, the lowest of the low. Ouch, that sting. But don't you worry, Janga's there to console him, telling him to work hard and climb up those ranks. Gotta appreciate a good friend like that. Later on, Lu Su heads back home and decides to give that roulette wheel another spin, and who's there with him? Sheil, the little girl. They spin that wheel like there's no tomorrow, and guess what? It stops on a rare scroll that enters Sheil's body, awakening her powers. Talk about an unexpected turn of events. Now, she's got her own cultivation system and a shot at ranking up. So, over the next few days, Lu Su starts getting real irritating, annoying his classmates left and right. He even goes as far as selling stinky tofu on the streets just to get under people's skin and rack up those cultivation points. The kid's determined, I'll give him that. He manages to light up all the moons in his cultivation system and earns himself a cursed sword that can be controlled from a distance. Talk about a handy weapon. Now, pay attention cause things are about to take a twist. Lu Su's at school, watching a video showing these criminals using their powers to rob banks. Not everyone's using their newfound abilities for good, huh? After class, he crosses paths with Jinshu, the most popular and skilled student in the whole dang school. Interesting encounter, I must say. So, our young hero heads back home and seeks out his neighbor, Mr. Lee, to teach him how to wield that roulette wheel one sword of his. Mr. Lee's a master swordsman with years of experience under his belt. He takes a simple sheet of paper, infuses it with blue flames, and cuts the ground in half, showing us that even a sheet of paper can be a deadly weapon in the right hands. Mr. Lee then sets Lu Su on a mission to strike 1,000 blows with that sword, and the young man spends hours on end swinging that blade till dusk settles in. Now, here's where it gets juicy. The next day, a powerful mage named Shui Jin shows up, threatening Mr. Lee. This mage is a part of some organization called Dragonites, and they're after a relic called the Eye of Formation, hidden away in one of them ruins. Trouble's brewing, my friend. And just when you think things couldn't get any crazier, Lu Su decides to take that blood test again. And guess what? The vial turns a luminous color that ain't even on the chart. That means he's evolved big time. He's gone from rank F all the way up to S. That's some next level stuff right there. But wait, there's more. In the morning, she awakens her powers and reveals that she can resurrect dead animals and control them remotely. Lu Su senses an intense spiritual energy emanating from the city bridge and rushes over there like a bat out of hell. And what does he find? His teacher Shurfei locked in combat against a whole bunch of power-wielding criminals. Talk about a chaotic situation. But just as things start heating up, the police show up, causing the gang leader to make a run for it. Well, that ain't gonna fly. That's when a snare member named Ray steps up and uses his own blood to imbue his sword. He hurls that blade right at the criminal, landing a nasty hit in the abdomen. But this tough guy shrugs it off like it's nothing. He starts talking on Shurfei and all the other snare members at once, mopping the floor with them effortlessly. Talk about a one-sided beatdown. But fear not, cause our hero Lu Su arrives on the scene, and he's got a new trick up his sleeve. He activates his brand new ability, an aura of blue that conceals his identity from those snare members. They ain't got a clue who they're dealing with. And let me tell ya, things take a turn for the intense. Lu Su dives into battle against that criminal, using his remotely controlled sword to deliver a fatal blow. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. And wouldn't you know it, our protagonist gains points in his system for talking down that scumbag. He brings Sheil over, and she starts collecting the souls of all them fallen fighters, cause, well, she's a necromancer. She can resurrect the dead to fight for her. Now that's some creepy but handy power to have. The next day, Shui Jin and his gang of powerful mages over at Dragnet catch wind of the security camera footage showing Lu Su laying the smackdown on that criminal. They're mighty intrigued by our protagonist's strength, thinking he's got some artifact from them ruins. Little do they know, it's all thanks to that aura he's got. They ain't got a clue it was him in the footage. Meanwhile, Sheil pays Lu Su a visit in his room and drops a bombshell. Resurrected the leader of that criminal gang. And not only that, she starts peeping into his memories and finds out he buried a good chunk of money on top of a hill. Sheil suggests they go grab the cash, but Lu Luciu's got a different idea. He knows that money was stolen by those criminals, so he insists they turn it over to the police, even though he's living in a rented place and could use the dough. Now, that's a noble act, but it does leave Shil feeling a bit miffed, and Luciu ends up racking up more points in his system. That's just how life goes sometimes, huh? And off to school we go. Luciu's there, provoking his classmates left and right, showing off his powers and making M upset cause they ain't got M. Oh, the joys of being a troublemaker. In the Awakened class, this mage named Lian T, rank B, declares they've passed their basic training and joined Dragnet as well. It's a big step up for M. And get this, all the students in the class receive these special stones to cultivate new abilities. But what does our hero Luciu do? He decides to sell his stone on the black market cause he figures he's already plenty strong and wants to save up to buy his own house. Now, his logic may be a tad peculiar, but hey, who am I to judge? Luciu and Shil ain't looking to be homeless or stuck going back to the orphanage. So, our young man works his butt off, saves up the dough, and surprises Shil with the deed to their very own house. Talk about a heartwarming moment. She gets all emotional and wraps him in a big ol' hug. Ah, the joys of having a place to call home. So, Luciu and the rest of the newcomers are given a top secret mission to protect a ruin from invaders who want to snatch up herbs and magical gear. They roll up to the site in a truck and their instructor lays down the law, making it clear that any leaks of info will be treated as a serious crime. Gotta keep it hush hush, you know? Later, while Cho went down on dinner, Jam drops some knowledge on Luciu. Turns out, ruins are like prime real estate for cultivation cause they're charged with a ton of spiritual energy. That means it's easier for awakened folks to rank up their powers. But, being the mischievous guy he is, Luciu decides to bug the class representative, Lioli, while he's trying to meditate, just to ruffle his feathers and earn more points in his system. Oh, that Luciu, always up to no good. But just as things are about to escalate, the instructor shows up and puts a stop to it. No fighting allowed, folk. Instead, he suggests settling their differences in an arm wrestling match. They head into a tent, lock hands, and the competition begins. And believe it or not, Luciu easily brings Lioli's arm down in a second, claiming victory without breaking a sweat. The instructor's mighty impressed and decides to take on Luciu next. But guess what? Our young man wipes the floor with him too, thanks to that little fruit he ate that gave him super strength. Talk about a powerhouse. But wait, the plot thickens. A mysterious fog rolls in, transporting the students inside the ruin. Luciu finds himself trapped there, and before you know it, a bunch of zombies start popping up from the ground, taking out one of the newcomers. Quick on his feet, Luciu snatches an axe from one of the zombies and goes to town, eliminating every last one of those undead suckers. The other newcomers, scared out of their wits, just stand there watching as he does all the dirty work. Fed up with their lack of help when he needed it most, Luciu decides to ditch M. Who needs M, right? Night falls, and Luciu spots a flare shooting up into the sky. Curiosity piqued, he follows the signal and comes face to face with a mysterious stranger he's never seen before. Now, get this, the guy introduces himself as Chon, but has a 6-digit number instead of a name. Weird, huh? Luciu ain't buying it and starts suspecting Chon might just be a thief trying to steal that magical gear from the ruin. But before they can sort out their trust issues, hordes of zombies come crashing in, ready to munch on some flesh. And what does Luciu do? He refuses to help Chon, just to frustrate the poor guy and rack up more points in his system. But surprise, surprise, Chon pulls out a small knife and manages to take down a zombie trying to take a bite out of him. Resourceful fella, I gotta say. The two find a high spot to keep away from the undead horde and spend the night staring each other down, trust levels hitting rock bottom. But Chang's had enough and decides to make a move. He lunges at Luciu with his knife and the blades start clashing, sparks flying. In a twist of fate, Chong manages to disarm Luciu, but our young man ain't one to back down. No, sir. He grabs hold of his overpowering sword and thrusts it right through Chang's chest, sealing the thief's fate. So, Luciu heads on back to the start of the ruin and finds those scared survivors. They look at him with fear in their eyes and address him as their master, saying they haven't had a decent meal in 3 days. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Luciu, being the mischievous fella he is, grabs an apple and takes a big ol' bite right in front of M, just to ruffle their feathers and earn some extra points. Oh, that Luciu, always pushing buttons. But fear not, he ain't all heartless. He takes the only axe the survivors have and leaves M 2 apples as compensation. A little something for their troubles, I suppose. Meanwhile, Instructor Chife and the other survivors find themselves trapped on a hill, surrounded by zombie knights that ain't letting M make a descent. They take a good look at those creatures and realize that the leader's the one holding a sword. They figure if they can take out the leader, the other zombies will be left confused. One of the snare members takes aim with a rifle, hoping to eliminate the sword-wielding zombie, but alas, they soon find out they got it all wrong. The true leader ain't wearing the same armor. Tricky, ain't it? The leader orders his lackeys to rain down a barrage of arrows on Chife and the survivors, forcing M to make a run for it. In another part of the ruin, Luciu sits perched on a tree, reminiscing about the days when he and Kyle lived together together in that orphanage, fasten life's hardships side by side. He tells himself he needs to find a way out of this ruin real soon so he won't leave Kyle all alone. With a resolve in his heart, Lu Xu gets up and continues his journey, only to stumble upon yet another group of zombie knights. But fear not, our hero enchants his weapons with a fierce purple spiritual aura and takes down those zombies with ease. Lu Xu even collects the spears those creatures were carrying for future use. Resourceful fella, that's for sure. Afterwards, Lu Xu cashes in his hard-earned points and buys himself a golden fruit from his system store. He takes a bite, and lo and behold, his whole body gets enveloped in a powerful purple aura. It's like he's received a mighty buff. One of the snare members suggests that Lu Xu should give the unused weapons to the survivors for their protection, but come on now, folks, Lu Xu didn't get this far by being generous. Nope, he decides to sell those weapons to the survivors in exchange for watches, chains, and even rings. Gotta make a profit, right? And here comes his old nemesis, Lioli, making his way over. The poor guy hands Lu Xu 2,100 yen, hoping to snag one of those weapons. But you know Lu Xu, always one for a prank. He plays a little trick on Lioli and hands him a completely rusty axe to use. Ah, the joys of mischief. Now, moving on, Lu Xu keeps walking and covers about 7 miles, inching closer to the core of the ruin. And here's the funny part, the survivors are following him like he's their leader, even though Lu Xu couldn't care less about him. Life's a funny thing, ain't it? But that's just how the story goes, my friend. As nightfall descends upon them, everyone decides to set up camp. Lu Xu, feeling a sense of remorse for the fallen snare soldiers who protected the students from the zombies, shares some apples with M. It's a small gesture, but it means something. The next day, they finally reach the core of the ruin, a massive hole that goes down 100 meters deep. And guess who joins M? It's Tinsu, who is busy protecting them wealthy students in another part of the ruin. Lu Xu sees this as a golden opportunity and sells some weapons to those wealthy folks too. Gotta make those coins, am I right? Now, here's where things get interesting. Lu Xu opens up the notification window of his system and realizes that there are spies among M, identified by numeric codes instead of names. Sneaky little devil. Everyone settles down for the night, and these spies take advantage of the darkness to sneak into the core of the ruin. But hold on tight, cause Lu Xu ain't one to be caught off guard. He grabs one of the spies by their clothing before they can descend with the others. The spy draws a knife, ready to face Lu Xu, but our clever protagonist shouts out that there's a spy in the camp, waking up the sleeping survivors. Lich, being the badass they are, easily takes care of the intruder. They realize they need to go into the hole and chase the other spies who manage to escape. A mage conjures up a stone ladder inside the deep hole to ensure their safe descent. Once they've made their way down, they come across the spies sitting in a circle. But something seems off. Lich kicks one of them and realizes that they're all dead. Strange, isn't it? They continue onward and enter a cave filled with crystals. But before they know it, the door slams shut and a bunch of eerie ghosts start emerging from the crystals, attacking our survivors. Now, here's the kicker: regular punches, kicks, and regular weapons don't do much harm to these creatures. It's a tough spot to be in. One of the ghosts even resembles one of the spies, making things even more twisted. That spy in the circle performs some sort of ritual to enhance the others and turn them into ghosts. To prevent further casualties, Lich taps into a significant portion of their spiritual energy and casts a powerful spell that wipes out most of the ghosts, leaving only the ones that were spies before. The temple doors swing open, revealing an army of zombies marching out. Lich unleashes a spell in the shape of a tiger, targeting the leader of the army. The leader's horse meets its end due to the magic, and the leader himself is furious. Meanwhile, Lu Xu showcases his skills by taking down 4 zombies at once with a single spear. But lo and behold, an arrow comes flying towards him, only to be sliced in half by Tinsu before it can hit its mark. Seizing the distraction, our young hero sneaks into the temple, to retrieve the treasure it holds. But hold on tight, cause that ghost of the spy is still lurking around, ready to strike. Lu Xu, being quick on his feet, dodges the attack and counterattacks with his own magic, finally eliminating the ghost once and for all. Now, here's where things get a bit peculiar. Lu Xu finds himself befriending a skeleton, of all things. He tries to snatch the spears from some statues, only for him to awaken and prepare to face him. But fear not, cause he summons his cursed sword, sending those statues running scared. Meanwhile, the battle against the zombies rages on, and Tinsu pulls off a jaw-dropping move. She uses a technique to stop time, saving a soldier who was surrounded and on the brink of defeat. And then, with a mighty swing, she cuts through multiple zombies, unfreezing time and taking them all out in one fell swoop. That rotten creature makes a run for it, shouting orders to the time statues to attack. But guess what? Lu Xu, being the resourceful fella he is, absorbs the powers of the relic in time. And what happens next? Poof! The statues and zombies start disappearing into thin air. Talk about a vanishing act. The survivors are then taken back outside the ruin and given the necessary treatment by the camp doctors. Phew, seems like they made it out alive. After all the chaos settles, Lu Su finds Shield, and let me tell ya, the emotional reunion is something else. She bursts into tears of joy upon seeing that he's safe and sound. And what does our boy show her? He's got a whole bunch of jewels, making it clear that money won't be a problem for M anymore. Lu Su returns home and expresses his gratitude to Mr. Lee, acknowledging that he only made it through the ruins cause of the old man's training. It's always good to show appreciation, folks. But wait, there's more. Lu Su surprises Shield with a squirrel as a gift. And let me tell ya, she's over the moon with joy. She names the little critter Chu, Mayanine small and fierce. Ain't that adorable? Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Lu Su starts digging into that time relic he snagged and realizes something mind-blowing. He can actually leave his body and soar through the sky, observing the city from above. Talk about a whole new perspective. He enters the relic and discovers that he can store anything he wants inside it, even those spears from the statues, and heck, even time itself. Now that's a handy trick to have up your sleeve. But hold on tight, my friends, cause the story ain't over yet. The toughest members of Dragnet, Shui Jing and Kneading, are having a little discussion about that relic that was in the temple. They decide to send a couple of soldiers to keep an eye on the spiritual activities in the city and try to retrieve it. Looks like Lu Su might have some troubles heading his way in the next season. Ah, the plot thickens.